Great. Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Alex Beale. I'm Foresight Manager at Landsec, and I'm also the chair of the CPA NextGen. So welcome. I'm just going to give a brief intro to this afternoon's session. Should be really good. We've got a couple of hours in the diary, and yeah, this is the second one, and I know that the first one had some great feedback. So just to give a bit of an overview, the CPA is a not-for-profit organisation, and it advocates and represents the leading owners, investors, professional advisors and developers of real estate across the City of London. And the NextGen is an initiative designed to support and engage younger people working across the industry. And we, as a committee, seek to engage the voices of the next generation to industry leaders, to improve knowledge and to grow our networks. And for this session, I want to thank our champion Gardner and Theobald for their sponsorship. So today's event, thank you to all the committee members who have given up some of their time and made this possible. You'll be able to meet one of these guys who will be in each of the hosting each of the breakout rooms that we'll be in shortly. We've got a 2-hour session, and I'm shortly going to hand over to a keynote address from Sophie Fernandes, who we're very grateful has given up some of her time. She works at the City of London Corporation and is chairman of the licensing committee. We're then going to go into some smaller breakout sessions, and in each of those we're going to focus on a key industry topic, including things like opening up of the square mile, the role of culture and the evening economy in a business district, and the future of work and play in the city. And what we really want to do is make sure that this virtual event is bringing a new generation of industry talent to meet and to mingle online, and to celebrate what's great about the City of London, and make sure that we're on a path to economic and social recovery. So I'm going to hand over now for a 10-minute keynote. There will be time for questions, for Q&A, so get thinking of those, put them in the chat function, and in 10 minutes time you'll get the chance to put those to Sophie, or I can come back to them as well. So without further ado, over to you, Sophie. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. So I'm conscious licensing is not your guys' area of specific interest, so I'm going to try and cover a few bits which might help on the planning aspect, on the opening up of the city aspect, and just giving you a little bit of insight at the very least into the weird and wonderful beast that is the City of London Corporation, and hopefully get you more engaged and more interested in it. So we'll start with the City of London Corporation is a massive and complex beast. And I know how it must be hugely frustrating sometimes to engage with it, because there are so many parts to it, and because it's not like a normal local authority, it can be difficult to know who to talk to. So we'll start at the beginning with a little bit of background. The City of London is the oldest continuous municipal democracy in the world, so it's over 1,000 years old. We have our own Magna Carta, and we're older than Parliament. So Parliament was actually based on us, and that's why there is an upper and a lower chamber. They have lords and MPs, and we have aldermen and commoners. They've also taken some of our processing aspects. So the Speaker will process into the chamber. For us, the Lord Mayor processes into the chamber. Also for divisions with voting, that also comes from us, and we also go down separate corridors. So the one thing about the City of London that you might not know is the City of London is not a local authority. It is a corporation with the right to undertake local authority duties. And that's where it can sometimes get a little bit confused when people talk about the number of local authorities in London. Because of our uniqueness in history, we're the only local authority that has business and residential voters. Each residential voter gets 1 vote each during the elections, and businesses get different number of votes depending on how many workers they have in their organisation. So to make it a little more fair, smaller organisations get more votes, so larger organisations can't monopolise the voting aspect of it. You might be thinking, where are all the residents in the city? Most of the residents live on the Barbican estate or the Golden Lane estate. We have a varying number of residents because of the aspect of the City of London. So that can range from 9,000 to 11,000 voters, depending on the election year. So I was talking about aldermen and commoners. We have 125 elected members split between the two chambers, 25 aldermen, 100 common councilmen. Common councilmen, I'll be honest, are usually the ones that do the heavy lifting on the committees. So you will find on the planning committee, it is almost wholly common councilmen with a few aldermen. Now, currently, those common councilmen are appointed by their ward. So you will find one common councilman, sometimes two in the larger wards, that sit on that planning committee. So you're not just dealing with people who just have residents or just have business voters, you are dealing with literally the whole of the ward aspect, the whole of the elected corporation. So we elect a Lord Mayor every year from the Aldermanic Chamber. And I'd like to say at this point, neither the Lord Mayor or any common councilman, none of us get paid for what we do. We all either still have full-time jobs or some people are retired. So it's all done out of social duty, civic duty, and mostly because we do genuinely love it, which I'm very aware might make me sound very, very sad, but it's the truth, and I'll be honest with you today. So going on to the local authority aspect. So I said we have local authority duties and non-local authority duties. Local authority duties include licensing and planning, quite obviously, and basically any of the local authority duties that your local authority at home undertakes. Picking up the bins, looking after the parks, all of that. Now, the non-local authority aspect can be more interesting for some people. A lot of people don't know that we own and run Hampstead Heath and have done for a number of years to stop it being built on. It was originally saved by the Victorians as to designate it as an area of green space for London, and we have taken that over to run it and ensure it's maintained properly. Interesting small fact, there's a zoo on there that was on there when we first got it. So if you fancy going down to have a look, please do. We also own and run Epping Forest as well as an open green space out in the east. So we've got the north and we've got the east. We also run the Animal Reception Centre at Heathrow because we are the Port Authority of London, and we run the Port Authority of London as well. So since 1977, I've had to look up these numbers. Every year we have 16,000 cats and dogs, 200,000 reptiles, 28 million fish, and also the odd elephant or two, which we do go down and try and see when they come through. And we've also got a crocodile who's waiting for a new home. I'm told he's very friendly, but I didn't go in his cage. So how was I elected? As I said, I will be honest to you. I grew up a working class girl. None of my family ever worked in the family in the city of London. I doubt they ever stepped in the City of London, to be quite honest. And if I'm really honest, I don't think my parents could still point it out on a map. So I had no connection to before I came in. It was after university that I started to get interested in politics, and with a couple of friends that were interested in politics as well, we worked in the Square Mile. We were looking at who was elected in the Square Mile, and to be honest, it was a lot of old people who had basically come to the end of their careers, been very successful. There was a lot of people who were very successful. Lord Levine, for example, was elected in the city before he retired. So we decided to be what you would probably call now disruptors, what we called then challenging the city. We wanted to see if we could do something a bit different and shake everything up. And I will tell you now, we never ever expected to get elected. It was a complete surprise. But once you are, it's step up and pay your dues, and it gets pretty serious pretty quickly. So you better really want to do it and realise that you want to do it very quickly. So I went straight into sitting on the planning committee when I was first elected, and this was during the 2009 recession. So I've been elected going on 12 years now. Our planning papers were 600 to 1,000 pages long. They were about 4 hours long at the time. It was a struggle, I will say that. And there were lots of buildings coming through that were then delayed until long after the recession. So things like the walkie-talkie and the cancer centre at St Bart's. Moving on from the planning committee, I joined the licensing committee, and I've been chairman for almost 4 years now. So the City of London, this may or may not surprise you, I don't know how much you guys go out, but it has the highest number of concentrated licensed venues in the UK, and we think it might be the world, but we haven't put the resources in to check that just yet. So bearing in mind we are a square mile, we have 1,000 licensed premises. Of those, 332 are licensed to be late night premises. Now, late night premises means after midnight and can mean up until 6 AM. And I can tell you there is a venue in the city, which I'm sure you've all found yourselves, is open until 6 AM. So it's not just us paying lip service to it, it's actually delivering while also looking after the residents and the business workers in the city to make sure we do look after all of you. So we are also one of the few local authorities that decided to bring in the late night levy. We brought in the late night levy because we wanted to make the City of London a late night venue. I don't remember this, and I'm certainly sure a lot of you won't remember this, but up until the very early 90s, the City of London pubs and bars tended to shut at 6, 7 PM. There was no nightlife after that. If you wanted to go for a drink, you did not go in the city. And that needed to change. We needed to make the city more diverse, more engaging, more fun, with more things to do. So that slowly changed. The late night levy was brought in to enable us to do that, because as you may or may not know, we have our own police force, the City of London Police. So that is run completely by the City of London Corporation, but still has cooperation with the Metropolitan Police across London. So we were involved with policing things like the Olympics. When needed, we're called in. The late night levy goes towards helping them provide bodies on the streets to make you all safe, make sure there's no crime going on or as little as possible, and just to make sure everyone enjoys themselves. It also goes towards the cleansing that you can probably imagine late night activity generates. And so the cleansing is very important for the city because we want it to look great for when you all come in the next day. So I will quickly mention sexual entertainment venues. I'm conscious I'm running out of time. Sexual entertainment venues, also known as lap dancing clubs. We don't have any in the city. We have 0 in the city. That's our policy, to have 0 in the city. So if you do see any that you think are in the city, they're not, they're just outside on the boundary. The owner's very clever and they will set up on the opposite side of the road to where the boundary stops. So I just wanted to put that in there because a lot of people think there are and there aren't. So reopening the city. Okay, so licensing, like planning, is highly regulated. So a slower opening is necessary and we just can't get around that. So with COVID, I've often referred to the regulations as doing nothing but allow me to watch Rome burn. It has been very stressful for hospitality owners. It's been very stressful for the city itself. What we have done, just to run through a couple of things, is with pavement licenses, I've paid through the committee's budget, and I've got the committee to agree that pavement licenses will be paid by the committee for this year. That started back last June as well, so that they do not have to pay out the extra expense when they're actually opening on top of everything else that they've had to cope with. That's been very well received. We've also recently agreed, of which I was a founding signatory, a £50 million COVID fund for small businesses such as barbers, dentists, and small bars and things like that, who need just that little bit of help to get going again. Currently, until May 17th, venues that are considered substantially indoors cannot open. So you will have seen quite recently that the Sky Garden at the walkie-talkie tried to open, I suspect. You've seen it in maybe the press or on their social pages. Unfortunately, because they are inside, they've had to now close again. So it is being enforced, and we have to enforce it so that we can basically be legal. Another thing that, unfortunately, which I do enjoy drinking, is something called vertical drinking. So vertical drinking is when you all stand outside the pubs and you don't have tables or chairs, you're just standing out in groups. Unfortunately, you can't do that at the moment, and I think that's one of the saddest things, because there's nothing like standing outside a pub on a sunny day in a city with a pint. It's the buzz and the chat and everything, and which I'm sure everyone misses. So legally, we can't open premises either until they pay their license fee, and a lot of owners weren't able to pay their license fee during COVID. What we've done is we've worked out a workaround, so we are allowing them to pay in instalments. So although legally they haven't paid their license, they are paying it, and there is intention to pay it, and that's how we found a workaround on that to get them back ASAP. So pavement licenses and table and chairs licenses are one of the most complex issues, and they fall under the planning side of things. A lot of people think they fall under licensing, they don't. So because of national legislation, you could find yourself with a license to sell alcohol outside, but not with a license for tables and chairs, which causes real complexity. In the city, we try very much to work together with the planning committee to try and deliver consistency so people know what to expect, but it doesn't always happen as smoothly as we would like. City streets tend to be small as well, so it's a matter of balancing the noise issue of the noise reverberating around the city. So we do need to, again, balance the needs of the residents and the people that want to go out. So the positives, we do have private and public land in the city. So public land will be your general walkways. You do need licenses to put tables and chairs on that, which we have had to try and expedite very, very quickly because we have very strict rules for that. And we've slightly lowered them just to get everyone back. With private land, in areas such as Bloomberg Building and Paternoster Square, you don't need a license for that because it's your land. We found it much easier to get tables and chairs out there, and therefore businesses working more easily. So it might be something you might want to consider when looking at the planning of a building. Other positive thing is that 80% of floor space granted by planning in 2020 was granted in just January and February this year. So we are well on our way to bringing the city back, and there is by no means a slowing down of planning permissions being entered to the planning committee. The Waterloo and City line is also reopening, and although we can't encourage workers back technically until May, we obviously would love to see you if you want to come into the city. The Lord Mayor is visiting businesses that have premises open both hospitality-wise and offices-wise to see how they're accommodating workers. And we have plans much more going forwards, which we're working with the CPA on. I can't tell you a lot on that, but I can tell you during your discussions if there are any ideas of what you'd like to see, maybe events, maybe streetscape aspects, please let me know. My email is on the City of London website. So in short, the city is open for business and we're all just waiting for you to come back.
Great, thanks, Sophie. I mean, I'm sure everyone is dying to get back to the city and to socializing in real life in general. Yeah, thank you very much for that. If you do have any questions in the chat, then feel free to comment, and I'll put them to Sophie. Or if you put your hand up, then I could come to you. And yeah, I'll make sure that if you do have ideas that you want to contribute, then get in contact. Bridget.
Just a quick
go ahead.
Thank you. Really interesting presentation. I love all those facts about the City of London. Is it an elephant and a crocodile or an alligator? It's fascinating.
We've had elephants, giraffes, but we currently have a crocodile, yeah.
Oh my God, I hope there's an Instagram account we can all follow the journey, because it could be a whole thing. But I just want to have thank you for giving that sort of very helpful feedback, because obviously it's quite a challenging time with everything going on with the COVID. I was actually at the Allgate Connect bid launch on Monday, and just seeing some of the small businesses open for the first time, they were just so happy to be there and, serve beer and food as much as they could. But I guess my quick question is, how are you working with the bids as sort of best as possible, and obviously all the small businesses they represent? Particularly, I guess it seems that one of the issues is around licensing and trying to react to a very changing government policy, and then quickly try and get ready for business, as fast as possible. So keen to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. As you all know, having been your bid, there are a number of bids throughout the city, and the city corporation is working very closely with them. As I said, there are some things that we can't do at the moment. As a local authority, we can't actively say, come back to work. The bids can, they're independent, they're nothing to do with the local authority. We also have a lot of work on marketing with them as well. So streetscaping with the marketing. So in short, we're working really, really closely with them. Middlesex Street, which has a bid, and I can't remember which one it is, had a street party back on Monday to celebrate the opening, and that was the joint initiative. Also, some common councilmen do sit on the bids in their own wards as well, so you have that direct aspect from that level.
Emily, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. That was really, really interesting. I loved, as Bridget said, all the facts. They were very interesting. I know you mentioned a lot about how you are sort of supporting the hospitality industry coming back. I just wondered, since sort of the last couple of weeks when they've been reopening and things, have you found or had any sort of feedback from hospitality owners as to how they would like to be supported, which wasn't sort of what you first thought, if that makes sense? Like, you've helped with licensing on sort of outdoor seating and things, but has there been sort of any requests from hospitality companies that you've been sort of surprised by?
Yeah, interesting question. I think initially, when lockdown first happened, we just seen that my deputy Shravran has put something about the Heathrow crocodile in the chat. So if you want to know more, there you go. So what we've done a lot with businesses is, first of all, we were just doing briefings, and what we realized very quickly is they did need the briefing, but it needed to be very straightforward. Because a lot of these people, haven't been opening their hospitality venues for months, sometimes even for over a year, and we need to help them get back into the regulations. So our City of London officers, I think, dealt with over 70 regulation changes in the last year, which is crazy. It was just happening every single day. So we found that they want more simplified but supportive advice. What we've also found is they just want someone to pop in to their venue. So we've got officers popping in, and if anyone wants to ask anything without prejudice, they can just say, look, is this right? Is this not right? Instead of panicking that it's not right and then getting pulled up on it at some point down the line, we can engage at a very early age. And I know that sounds very simple, but the City of London Corporation, as I said, is a really complex beast, and sometimes it's the simplest things which get overlooked. Yeah, so we've had that. Oh, and engagement with the police as well. They want more engagement with the police. I know it would be a natural thing for perhaps outsiders to think that venues are just like, oh, stay away. But actually, venues do want more engagement with the police, and they want them not to necessarily enforce immediately, but they want, again, the engagement, the advising of the new rules, which people might not know. I know they've been around a lot. As I said, they've changed a lot as well.
Really good advice. I've got a question. I think we've probably got time for one more after that. So we've obviously been through a period of a lot of change over the last 12 months, and you know, the role of city centres is under probably quite an accelerated period of change and disruption, from, you know, more people working remotely, more people shopping with deliveries. But then on the flip side, you've got more people wanting to spend more money and time on experiences rather than on buying things. And the city can be a great place to come and experience, you know, heritage and culture and activities and all sorts of things. And the agglomeration of businesses is obviously driving people and businesses to still want to locate in city centres. How do you see the city shaping in years to come, and the role of the CPA and the city corporation in getting to that?
Interesting, and I'm not sure if I can answer that fully actually at the moment. It really is a movable feast. we're still working day by day to try and get the best results for workers and residents and businesses. I think we will be working to a different cycle for the late night economy. So whereas it used to be very much Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think we're probably going to be looking at a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday cycle now. So businesses are going to have to adapt to that. We've had a lot of retail go during COVID as well. So there's going to need to be engagement to try and get that back into places like One New Change to keep that energy, that experience, that opportunity up. And with our plans that we do have in the works, there are other experiences coming. I was told just today that I can't say anything about it, so I really can't pretend not to know that I can't tell you.
We'll keep an eye out for an announcement.
Yes, I think that's the best way of putting it. I think what you're looking at the moment is the first stage of it, and so you're seeing the Lord Mayor going out, like I said, going to see businesses, going to engage. Again, it's all about the engagement, which is a massive thing when you're doing planning as well. He's engaging, he's going out to show that the city is open for business, and we're getting lots of information and intel from that as well, actually going out to speak to people. So you will see more of that happening during the different stages of the government hopefully coming out of lockdown. But at the moment, it really is a movable feast. But we want to make it as vibrant and as open as possible. We want people to come back. We want them to be engaged with it and use all of the facilities that are there. Like you said, things like the Museum of London, the Guildhall Art Gallery, the Barbican, all there to be open, and they will all have their own events on and things that you can go and engage with and hopefully enjoy. So we are planning for aspects to change, but at the moment it's still a day-by-day analysis.
Great, yeah, really interesting. Thank you. One more question we've got from Andrea. What's the first pub that you'll be heading back to when this is?
Oh, you're asking me to choose favourites.
I will go to the Old Thames Inn in London Bridge.
What was that?
Yeah, so I work in London Bridge and my office is close to the Old Thames Inn. And I think I spent almost 5K in 5 years there, so I have to keep it up.
Well, I can tell you that things like the Oyster Shed are open, also on the Thames, just next to London Bridge. And I did go to Devonshire Terrace the other day, which is on the east side of the city. A lot of Bloomberg is open. They've done a lot of work on all of their terraces, so a lot of that will be open. And some of the old favourites, like the Jamaican Inn, that isn't open at the moment because it can't until May, I will be back there as well as Merchant House. Goodness, I'm trying to give you as many names as possible so you can go and enjoy them. But
I think that's more than enough. Thank you.
It's been so long, it's hard to remember. Amazing. Well, that was such a great overview. And yeah, just the whole system and how it's working and how, the role you play and everything, and such a great scene setter for some great conversations. So thanks so much for giving up some of your time, Sophie. It's much, much appreciated. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And as I said, if anyone has any questions, my email's on the website.